tall as fudge, and I played basketball against my brother all the time. And he's 2 years older than me, he's taller than me, he's better than me. He's like Christian James. He's better than me, everything. Literally everything. He looks good, he smells good, just anything. And we're playing basketball, and are you seriously gonna keep fighting right now? I'm over this! I'm so over this! Stop! Alright. So we're playing basketball, and I thought whenever we finished a game, he would cream me. I wouldn't even score 1 point. He would go inside and be done, and I would stay out there and like try and practice to get better. Let me get a ball. So I'd stand out there, and how many of you guys remember, or if you weren't like doing it, or if you still do this, I'm sorry. But you're supposed to like dribble it between your legs like that, and I would go like this.
You like lift your legs, yeah.
And then I played NBA Street, and I was like, I'm Biggie Small, Biggie Little, not Biggie Small. Biggie Little was a character from NBA Street, and his signature move was this. And I would do that one, and I would like practice and get really good. And I would go for the stretch dunk, 360 under the legs, slam dunk, the cookie bowl where you grab the rim and then put your other arm in. Anyways, I was practicing, so I put that game. And one day we finished playing, and I go into the garage, and I remember this. I remember it so clearly. I was sitting in the garage on my dad's workbench. I have the basketball. I just lost really bad to my brother, and I'm like thinking, I'm like, if I can do one thing that he can't do, I'm better than him. That's just how the world works. If I can do one thing in basketball that he can't do, I might as well just beat him in the game. So I looked at the ball, and I was sitting there, and I put my face on it like this. And I thought to myself, and I prayed out loud, God, I want to dunk on 10-foot rim. Please. Amen. So then I start hearing like the soundtrack to Space Jam, and it's like, I believe I can fly. And I'm like, on the beat, you know? And I get my all situated and stuff, and I'm in my garage. And my driveway goes downhill, and there's like this curve, and then you're on the court of the basketball hoop is. And I grab the ball, and I'm running with it. Kind of like it's football, kind of like this. And I'm curving around, and when I was little, I thought like, when you turn, like when you're running, there's all this like kinetic energy inside of you that makes you go faster. And now I'm running like 1,000 miles an hour, and I'm turning around, and I see the hoop, and I'm half court away. I'm running as fast as I can. And I have my approach set. Right foot, left foot, and then I leap off my right foot. And I kick my left foot up in the air. And I bound into the air, and I start to scream. And this, you know, like the curl back. At this point, my shins are like at the height of the rim, you know? And I'm above it, I'm like, no! And I slam the slam dunk, and I grab the rim just so perfectly, and the ball just swooshes through all fast and stuff. And I grab the rim, and I pull up on it, and then I drop to the ground. And then I run and grab the ball, and I honestly never do this. I grab the ball, I just dunked, and I put it like this, and I went, yeah! Yeah! Woo! Oh! And if you were there and you were watching, let's say, because I was shorter back then, let's say I'm my height and the ceiling is the rim of the hoop. I went like this. Wait. Yeah! Did I hear something? Yeah! Did I really hear something? And I literally just like jumped and fell to the ground. I closed my eyes. Still along. I closed my eyes, and I thought I had done it. I honestly believed in my heart of hearts that I had just done it. And it was awesome. So I go inside, and I find my brother, and I'm like, Jesse, I'm done. And he's like, no, you can't, you're done. I was like, no, I can, I did. No one saw. But I saw, and I did. But I did it. What are you talking about? He said, no, you can't. He kept saying, no, you can't. You're lying. You're a liar. You're making that up. You're dumb. I started crying. And I was like, I did dunk. I did. But you don't believe me. And I did. So I ran to my room, and I left the ball down the court, you know? And I ran from her room and I'm just crying and I'm thinking, I'm gonna run away. I'm gonna run away from home, they'll never find me. And I'm gonna leave them a note. But because it's like basketball, this will let them know. So I'm gonna grab a Sharpie pen and write on the basketball. I'm gonna write, Jesse is stupid. Sorry, Mom and Dad, from CJ. I'm running away. I'm gonna write it on the basketball, I'm gonna leave it there, and I'm gonna run away forever. And that was my stupid plan to run away. Today we're talking about someone who's running away, and that was a weird story to start with. If you guys have your Bible, I was trying to do that. Open up to the book of Luke. Book of Luke, chapter 15, verse 11. Luke 15, 11. Grab a Bible if you guys didn't bring one. But please open that. We're going to be in there today, this whole time. I'm going to pray and we're going to get into it. So, get there. When you're there, go, shmee. Wait, actually, there he is.
Right here.
Alright. Luke chapter 15. It's towards the back. If you guys need help, ask around. There's a lot of people around you that know how to do it. One kid last service, again, said, what page is it on? It's always a different page. So much, and thank you for the story and for this time we get to spend with each other. I pray that you would just speak through me right now. That you would teach us all something new from the characters and the story that you've written for us. So we love you, God, and we thank you so much for loving us. Hear me pray. Amen. So in Luke chapter 15, verse 11, it's titled The Parable of the Lost Son. And if in your Bible it's in red letters, that means that it's Jesus talking. And if it's not red letters, it means you don't have that kind of Bible. But it is Jesus talking. It says this. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate. Time out. If you were back then when Jesus, if you were back then when Jesus was telling the story, you would understand something that we don't understand today. The estate is like your parents' will. When they die, they have all of their money set apart and set up to go to a son or a daughter who's going to follow them. So he's pretty much telling his dad, since you're not dead yet, I don't have this money that I want, so would you just give it to me early? You're pretty much, I wish you were dead. You're dead to me. He's telling his dad, give me all the money that I get once you die. But give it to me now. And surprisingly, which is a little bit different in the story, but this is what happens. So the dad divided up the property between them. He gave them the share. Not long after, the younger son got together all he had and set off for a distant country. There he squandered his wealth with wild living. So he spent it all on stupid stuff, on sinful stuff, on bad stuff. Then he says this. After he had spent everything, that means he spent all the money and he sold everything that he had and spent that money. He had nothing left. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine. So there's no more rain. So the crops aren't growing. People aren't hiring very much because they don't have money to spend. They're all storing up for this. They don't know how long the famine's going to be. But it's bad for everyone, and it's especially bad for him because he has nothing left. He began to be in need, so he went and hired himself out to a citizen in the country who had him feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods the pigs were eating. In a famine time, they wouldn't feed pigs with like the slop or whatever that we see, that like farmers feed pigs, but they'd feed them with like these weird things. Click the next slide. Those are what are called pods in your guys' Bible. When I looked it up, they're like this big and they fall off of trees. And when they fall off of trees, click the next one. They pile up on top of each other, and the top ones get all dry and gross and bad. And then at the bottom, they stay like a little bit wet and moist. So the pigs go to under these trees because the farmers aren't going to give them real food because they're in famine. And they underneath and find like the moist, like gross, good ones. And this dude who we're talking about ran away from home, doesn't have anything left. He's so hungry, he wants to start eating these. He wants to get on his hands and knees and eat with the pigs. That's a bummer place to be in. It also says that no one gave him anything. He wasn't given any handouts. The guy who he worked for wasn't giving him money. He wasn't giving him food. It says this. When he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired men have food? And here I am starving to death. I will set out for home and say to my father, I have sinned against you and against heaven. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me one of your hired men. So he got up and he went to his father. Think about this dude walking home. It said earlier that he went to a distant land. So it's a long journey back home. He's walking this whole way, and think of what's going through his mind. He's about to go and see his dad, because he had told years ago, "You're dead to me. Give me all your money." And he's going to have to confront him after he wasted all the money and became completely poor and completely worthless. Come to him and ask him for a job. If anything is weird or awkward or just uncomfortable, that's going to be really weird. It's going to be really hard for him to approach his dad again. And he's scared that his dad's not even going to talk to him. He's not even going to look him in the eyes. He's not even going to say a word to him. Or his dad's going to be pissed and try and hurt him. He's not sure what's going to happen. But that road, we have to remember about that road. That road back home was really tough. Let's see what happened. The son said to his father, no. I skipped the same really awesome part. So he got up and left for his father's. Then it says this, but while he was still long off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son and threw his arms around him and kissed him. Instead of being angry, instead of not talking to him, his dad runs to him while he sees him really far away. Then the son said this, Father, I've sinned against you and sinned against heaven. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Look, and then his dad interrupts him because he was about to say, make me one of your hired men, like he had rehearsed in the earlier verse. The dad interrupts him and he says this. He yells to his servant and says, quick! Bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger, put sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. For this son of mine was dead and now is alive. He was lost and now he's found. So they began to celebrate. Normally, I would stop there, and how many of you guys have heard me tell that story before? Or you've heard that story from us at 5 before? All of you, because I've told it like 3 times. Today we're taking a new angle, but if I were teaching on it like I normally do, it would be this. 3 points. 1, we all run away from God. We're like the younger son, and we, by the way that we live, we say you're dead to me. We don't treat him like he's God and we run away. Once we run away, and we don't have him anymore because we've run from him, then when famine strikes and bad stuff happens, we don't have anything to hold on to. And we start wanting to eat pig food like he did. Like we start wanting to do whatever we can to get out of it. And life is really a lot harder without the Lord. And then number 3 is that when we come home, he's going to throw a party for us. And he's going to be excited that we're back. And he always will welcome us back no matter how many times we run away. Those will normally be our normal points. But this week, I looked at the story and there's more to it. What's the next word? Who's got it? Anybody following along? It's going to be verse 25. Meanwhile. Or like in like movies, like meanwhile. Or like meanwhile. Meanwhile. Out of this. Meanwhile. I'm going to do it until it's loud. Meanwhile. It says. Meanwhile. Dun 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 dun. Or on SpongeBob, meanwhile in Bikini Bottom. Meanwhile, verse 25 says this: the older son was in the field. Hey Caleb, can you go sit with them or on a chair or something? I'm sorry, you swooped your spot and we're just not going to do that. Just grab that chair behind Caleb. Sorry guys. Meanwhile, his older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. I don't know if you hear dancing. My theory is it's like that Hannah Montana song where she's like moving her hips like yeah. Because her hips are literally moving and saying the word yeah. And that's how you hear their dancing. So he's hearing them move their hips like yeah. He's hearing the music. You guys have thought about that before. So he called to his servants. This is the older son. He called to his servants and he asked them, what the heck is going on? And the servant says this: your brother has come home, he replied. And your father has killed the fattened calf. Because he is safe and sound. He's home. And before you read the next sentence, what do you think the brother feels like now?
He feels angry.
He feels left out. He feels mad, right? He's angry. That's actually the word probably. It says this: the older brother became angry and refused to go in. He refused to go party with his brother. He refused to move his hips like that. Okay? So the father went out and pleaded with him to come in and just accept his brother, even though he left and used all the money. This is what the brother said. And this is gross that he said it. And we're gonna really focus in on what he says right here for the rest of the talk. It says this. When he answered his father, he said, "Look, all these years I've been slaving for you. I've never disobeyed you or your orders." You guys think that's really true? He's never ever disobeyed his father? That's not true. I've never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a yo-yo, so I could celebrate with my friends. Like my brother just came home from all this sin and this badness that he said you're dead to him and stuff, and you killed a fattened calf. I've been here this whole time, and you never even did something even less than that, like a young goat, for me and my friends to have a party. And we'll go like, yeah. So verse 30, it says this. But when his sons, but when this son of yours, so this is still the older brother. When this son of yours, who squandered your property with prostitutes. So now we see what he used his money for, at least some of it. When he comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him? Like, what's the deal, Dad? What's your problem? I've been here this whole time. And my brother goes out and does all this bad stuff. And listen to what the dad says. This is so cool. He says, "My son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours." 32. But we had to celebrate. And if you have your pen or something, underline had. We had to celebrate and be glad. We have to. Because your brother, this brother of yours, was dead, and now he's alive. He was lost, and now he's found. We had to. It wasn't just like we wanted to. We literally had to, because he was so far gone, and so far off, and so bad, and now he's alive. Now he's back. And so we're going to party about that. And I want to invite you to come and do that with us. And the older brother was just angry. He played the victim, and he was just grossly in sin. He's this bad character in the story. There are 3 types of kids that I see on a Wednesday night at Pipeline. 3 types of kids. And you guys have them on your note sheet. They're already written out for you. The first type of person that's at Pipeline is someone who's part of the Pipeline family. And before you start saying, "Well, that's not fair," or whatever, because you don't think you're part of the family, let me tell you. We don't choose who's in the family, or right now who's in the family. I didn't pick anyone. You choose yourself if you want to be part of that. And the way that you do that, the way that that looks in your life is this. 1, you've been here for some sort of time. You don't show up on your first night and become part of the family. 2, there's been some sort of life change. So someone's been up here teaching, or at camp, or a small group leader has told you something, and it's changed something that you do outside of these walls. Like we talked about prayer, and now before you go to sleep, you pray. Or we talked about reading your Bible, and now you read your Bible. Or you join Epic, and you're pursuing a relationship with Jesus outside of a Wednesday night or a Sunday morning. Does that make sense? Those are the people who have made themselves part of this family, and it's their home. And I think of some of my boys who have recently become Christians, and it just blows my mind to see where they started at, and now that they're part of the family, and it's so cool. And then the next group of people are people who are like the younger brother. They're on that road that we talked about that must be awkward, a little bit weird to walk on that road home, to being part of the family, to being part of the party that some of you guys are part of, and they know it, and they care, and they see it in their future. They see themselves coming up on this awesome party that a lot of us have already been a part of for a while. And the way that you know who those kids are, and the way that you know that you're one of those kids, is they're just seeking for something more. You can tell that they engage during the talk. You can tell that they engage during small group or during worship. They start asking questions like, what's going down on Sunday mornings? When's camp? Let me sign up for camp. They're pursuing the relationships here, and it's awesome. One of the biggest indicators of this group, and it's the most exciting thing for me. When a student comes up to me and they say, and they go up to the other student and they say, "CJ, can I have a Bible?" And I want to start crying. Like, that is huge. That they came to Pipeline for a good kind, because they saw it on the internet, or they got invited by one of their friends, and they left with something so much more, with this new passion in their life to have purpose, and knowing that they're going to heaven when they die. Like, that's huge. And last Sunday, it's so stupid that it makes a little bit of sense. It's like you're going to a yogurt shop, and you get all your yogurt, and you put some good stuff on there, and you get the right flavor, and you get all the gummy bears and stuff, and you're stoked. And you put it on the little layer thing, and the lady's like, "That'll be $5. You're like, "Thank you." And she's like, "Oh, and by the way, you can also have this for free with it. And it's keys to a Lamborghini." You're like, what? What? Like, I just showed up to get this thing done. I'm honestly very excited for it. And you just gave me like $1 million card. Sick. Like, isn't that huge? So people show up at Pipeline expecting something so awesome, but in comparison to what they get away with, what they leave with, it's so insignificant, the fun that we have, compared to the eternal glory that they'll experience in heaven. So that's the second group of people that they're on that road home. Maybe it's a little awkward, but they're trying to figure it out for themselves. And the third group of people are people who are on the road home, but they don't know it. And they don't care. And you can tell which kids these are, and before I even say anything that they do, let me explain to you one thing. These kids are not Christians, so I'm not holding them to the standard that I hold kids who are part of the family. So one of the things that you can see them by is by their disrespect, that they haven't been at church before. They don't know what it's about. So when we're talking or when we're doing worship, they're being disrespectful. And they're making jokes, and they're even breaking rules that we kind of set up where you're not supposed to sit on top of a person of the opposite gender the whole talk, or like hold hands during Pipeline, or be on your phones the whole time. Like I come up behind, and this isn't just them, it's a lot of kids. I come up behind you, and you're on your phone with this. You're scrolling, Luke's up there talking, and I tap you on the shoulder, and I'm like, hey, put your phone on, and they're like, they go like this, and I'm watching them. I didn't move. I'm still standing right behind them. And I'm looking at them, and I see that they're just holding their phone there. I'm like, are you serious? And then they go like this. And I go up, I tap them on the shoulder again, and they look at me, and I'm like, I want to laugh. Like, what was that? Like, I just told you to do something. You flat out didn't do it. Like, what is the deal? And I asked them, and they're like, I don't know. Like, I just like, oh, no, I'll just be on my phone. Like, they just don't know that you're supposed to do what you're told to do. They come for reasons that we hope that people like. Okay, so here's how I know this. I have students who come to tell me who are some of the family students in that first group of people, and they say, I hate that everyone just comes because it's cool to hang out. That's a real thing. People show up just because their boyfriend or their girlfriend comes, and that's the only time they get to see them every week other than at school, or they want to flirt it up with someone, or they want to see this group of friends, and they want to play the game, or they want to break the rules, or they want to just do whatever the reason you come. We don't care why people come to Pipeline. We just want people there. And then here's the last thing about that third group of people, and it's the mindset that they have when they're showing up. Which, once again, I'm not holding them accountable to any of this, because they're not Christians. They're not held to my standard or some of your guys' standards. Here's the third thing they do: is they treat Pipeline like it's a party that you show up to, and the price to get in is you have to sit through a talk, and you have to sit through a worship, and you have to sit through a small group. But once you get through all three of those things that are pretty just weird and you don't really care, then you get to hang out with the girl or the guy that you like, or you get to hang out with a group of friends, or you get to play the game that you like, or do whatever you want. That's what Pipeline is. It's a party with the price of all that. Honestly, for a while, this should be fine. And Pipeline needs to be a place for all three types of people. Where the family members are getting fed, where the seekers are getting taught stuff that's just showing them how to seek out the Lord, and the people who don't know that they're on that road can still be accepted and loved. But today, I want to say something to the family members. And maybe there's some of the secrets, but it's mainly to the family members. When I said that, you said, that's me. I want you guys to listen. I hope this kind of rocks you a little bit. Because once you see like the kid during worship being completely distracting, or the kid during the talk who's on their phone, or with a guy or a girl like way too close or whatever. I'm not saying it's everyone, but it is a large number. We become the brother in the story. The brother in the story that we're talking about who got angry and who played, the first one you can fill in is, who are you going to be? The brother plays the victim. The brother plays the victim. And I see students all the time come up to me and they say, oh, I liked Pipeline better when it was fill in the blank, smaller, or we got to play this game, or we did this event and now we can't do it bigger, or whatever. And it's all because this new group has grown so immensely on Wednesday nights. That's a good thing that those people are there. You can't say it's a bad thing because they're hearing something about Jesus. And maybe they don't hear anything about Jesus the whole week except for on Wednesday nights. So that means that they're on that road. When they hear about Jesus on Wednesday night, whether or not they're paying attention all or just like they catch one word, they're on the road, whether they know it or like it or not. They're on the road. And when they're here and we start complaining and saying, I liked it better when it was this, we play the victim like the older brother. Second thing we do is we get all entitled and we say, well, I used to be able to do this, and the leaders used to be with me more, but now they're with these people, or this group of friends used to be this way, and now they're this way, or we get all entitled like we own the place. And the third thing that's so important, and that both of those play into, is we become what we hate. Or the older brother becomes what he hates. He turns into the sinner. When like his younger brother left and was the sinner. He was the bad brother. And then he comes home and becomes like okay with dad. And dad makes him right. And dad throws him a party and is so excited for him. And the older brother becomes the sinner and the antagonist in the story. And he gets mad. And he says, I won't come and complain. And what we do at Pipeline that's really scary and it's sad is the disrespect that comes from that other group of people that we can almost expect from a group of people like that, that's fine. The disrespect that comes from them just completely pours over into the way that all of us act. And now, because they're getting distracting, I might as well be distracted too. Or because they're not listening when the leader tells them to do something, I might as well not either because they're not. Like that student cannot see a difference between the kids who've been here for 3 years and the kids who are brand new every day. They can't tell who's the new kid because people are acting exactly like everyone else. There's no distinction. Or you can choose to be the father. So who are you going to be? The father, he welcomes with love. That's the first thing. He welcomes with love. And this third, and the second and last thing we're going to talk about today is so huge. And the implications are just insane. The second thing you need to do if you're going to be the father is you're going to lead by example. Leads by example. And look at that bottom line that I wrote. I'm going to read it to you. It says this. When they see your good example, they realize that they're on the road. And I never thought about this before, but I know it to be true now, just thinking about it, is that when a new kid is at Pipeline or a student who's on the road but doesn't know it, they don't care. And they're distracting and they're disrespectful and they're just like that kid that is ruining it for everyone. When they see that a family member student is paying attention and looking up front and caring and engaging in small group and encouraging people to respect the leaders or to respect just the whole program, respect the facilities and not break stuff, respect the adults, and when they tell you to do something, they just do it. When they see that in you, they realize this is more than just a party. Because these kids actually care. Does that make sense? This is more than just, I show up and I have to sit through this crap and then I get to hang out with the girls or the guys, or I get to hang out with the friends. It's more than that because I can see it in my peers. They actually care. And they're here for a different reason than I am. And the kids who are on the road and they don't know it suddenly realize that they're on the road. Because they know, isn't that cool? Because they know that this is more than just a party. They see it in you guys. I can get on the stage and talk about Jesus as much and over and over and over again. And a student won't hear it because he's distracted the whole time. But when he sees his buddies who invited him, or his buddies who are just people, the majority, who's just looking and trying to listen instead of being distracted, that's what it took for me. I remember being in junior high sitting in T&L, and I really looked up to this kid. His name was Christian, and he was the grade above me, and he's super cool. Like everybody knows him, all the leaders are homies with him. Like he was the sweet dude. And I had never listened to a talk before. I didn't care. I was my mind was just running everywhere else. And I saw Christian, and I could just tell he was focused. I could just tell he wanted to hear and take from it because he was a little more mature than me. And I saw that in him, and I was like, dang, like this is more than just a party. And then in small group, my small group was so ridiculous, all of junior high. And it took me until high school when that same group of guys decided, hey, let's start leading by example. Let's start engaging in small group together. Asking each other about how we're doing, asking each other about what's real and what's really going on. And it changed everything. And then in worship, instead of just sitting there and doing nothing, I started I started to sing, but that's not what it has to be. I started to actually take it seriously. And it wasn't because I can tell you to be quiet. I can ask you to pay attention. But what does that really honestly do on Wednesday night? It doesn't do very much. So I want to empower you guys and tell you this, that when I think about it in the eternal aspect of a student who comes to Pipeline, who's on that third row of, I have no idea I'm even on a road. I'm just hearing words about Jesus and I don't know what they mean and I don't care. I'm just here to party. That kid shows up in heaven someday and God says, what's your story? How'd you become Christian? What if they said, well, there were kids at this group that I came to. I thought it was just for fun. I thought it was just a joke whenever they came up and talked about God or the Bible. I thought it was just a price I had to pay in order to have a good time. And I saw kids next to me paying attention and caring, and I wanted to see what they were in for. Because they didn't just come for the game. They didn't just come for their friends. They came for a different reason than I did. And I wanted to figure out what that was. Then I started listening, and I actually got that spiritual meat in my life, and I started to follow who Jesus really is. And then I went to camp and I accepted him, or something like that. Like, how cool is that he wants to use you? I'm not coming down on your heart. I'm saying you guys have such a huge opportunity on Wednesday night to be used by the Lord to change people's lives. And the last thing I wrote on my mind is when the son finally came home, his father said something to him, and it's the reason why we were going to do all this. The reason why I dare you to go do it on Wednesday night. It's the reason why we're even here today. He says this about his son, and I'm going to say about myself, and you guys say about yourself. It says, I was lost, and now I'm found. I was dead, now I'm alive. The reason I'm going to go set the example for who Jesus is and what he's going to do on Wednesday nights is because I was once one of those kids who was lost. And I needed someone to set the example for me. And now I'm found. I was one of those kids who was dead. And someone set an example for me. I got Jesus in my life, and now I'm alive. That's why we're doing what we're doing. So I absolutely, I thought this was so cool, and I'm excited to tell you guys about it. I hope and pray that you remember and think about it on this night. Let me pray, and we're going to get out of here. Lord, we love you so much, and I thank you that you want to use us so badly. I thank you that you want to use us to our full potential to get people into your kingdom, get our friends, to change their hearts. We love you, God, and we pray for what happens here on Wednesday night, that you would just encourage us to be respectful and to set that example. We love you so much, Lord, and it's only because of you that we love you, God, and we pray. Amen. If you guys